Welcome into another edition of Sunday Flags. This is the Wednesday, February 11th edition here of Sunday Flags. I'm your host, Mason Kinnahan. That over there is Luke Brown, and we've got quite a bit to talk about. A couple of tournaments. I've been sick over the last few days. We didn't get in a recap for the Phoenix Open, but we're going to talk a little bit about the Phoenix Open and then get into Pebble Beach plus some other stuff. First off, though, Luke, how you feeling on this Tuesday evening?
Certainly, it was a great weekend of golf, so feeling good about, what we saw out in Arizona and looking forward to, obviously kind of a stop that's one of the players' most favorite stops on the tour calendar out in California and one of the favorites for viewers as well to be able to watch golf out at Pebble Beach.
Yeah, we'll get into the first signature event of the season in a little bit. But first, we've got to talk about Phoenix over the weekend. I know it happened a couple of days ago, but there was a lot of fireworks, especially at the end. Chris Goddard got the win over Hideki Matsuyama in a playoff. A lot of things to look back at, a lot of things to break down. We'll start with probably the storyline from Sunday, especially towards the end of Sunday, and that was the playoff and Hideki's run down the stretch, including a bogey on the 72nd hole to force that playoff from Hideki. And then on his tee shot at the playoff hole, you had Hideki backing off his shot twice, once for a fan and once for what we have heard is a chair dropping on concrete. Crazy
Right.
situation at the Phoenix Open, Luke. Just initial thoughts on when you first heard about, why Hideki backed off his tee shot.
Well, I mean, it stinks for Hideki. Like, there's no way around that because we're talking about, Matsuyama, who's, he's got a green jacket under his belt. He's a legitimate golfer, and he's proven that many times. He's had plenty of ebbs and flows and, weird sequences in his career. But I don't know if there's a weirder one than what we saw on Sunday. There was a pretty darn good video of the chair that fell. There, I don't know. I didn't come across a video of somebody yelling. It might have been audible on the broadcast. I don't remember. Um, but I saw a video of the confrontation afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that with the guy that yelled at his first swing, and there's no way around the fact that, like, you could clearly see it messed with him and that it directly led to the result of this golf tournament. So it stinks, and, things just kinda worked out for Goddard, who was looking like he was going straight for the bunker. It bounces off into the fairway, and he gets a really, really nice break, and Hideki obviously does not get that. I couldn't figure out for the life of me for the longest time where it was going. Like, I saw the ripples in the water, so something when the water there was a point where and I didn't have the sound on, you didn't either. We were together
Yeah.
about to watch the Super Bowl. Um, but but certainly we're glued to what was going on just without sound. So I was like, did that thing skip the water? What happened there? It looks like it hit something and bounced in. Did it hit the grandstand?
I believe it hit the rocks that were just like on the edge of the water. It hit one of the rocks, and then I don't know exactly what happened, but it felt definitely like a delayed ripple in the water. It
Yeah.
definitely, the camera pans over, you lose sight of the golf ball, and then
Mhm.
about 2 or 3 seconds later, you see the ripple in the water, and so kind of know the fate from there. But definitely not something you typically see. And Kyle Porter kind of puts it best. He calls this a normal sport, and when you see stuff like this, it's definitely goes into that. So it's definitely not what Hideki wanted. And you mentioned Goddard's tee shot. You thought it was in the bunker originally, and then well, because on the telecast they had the tracer, and the tracer made it
Yeah.
look like it was heading straight for the bunker, and it
Right.
ends up center fairway. And you're like, what just happened? It One of the craziest bounces on the edge of a bunker that I've seen in quite some time now. Hideki's was a little more unlucky than Goddard's for sure, but two not very good tee shots for either, and one of them just gets really lucky, and one of them not so much.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you're right. Like, Kyle Porter is right when he talks about this being a quote normal sport and the weird things that happen. I think the only sport that's comparable is baseball. And I mean, not sport to sport particularly, but just the weird things that you're going to see the more and more that you watch the game. it directly results in guys winning and losing tournaments. That's the part that's kind of unlike baseball, that those weird occurrences happen in the game for baseball, and they don't always like directly lead to important outcomes and important, I don't want to say decisions, but things that are things, that determine this game. And now Goddard, you look at the trajectory of his career, and obviously people were going to say, man, he's on a heater if he had lost the playoff too. Just the fact that he was there, he's already won this year. He's on such a nice incline of his career, but just the fact that he wins, that's who everybody's talking about this week. And he's really become this breakout player on tour this year. And it's a completely different story, at least to an extent, if he loses that playoff. And, it's all about Hideki, and he's back, and he's already got a win in 2026. And, he's back, and he's going to have a really, really good year. So you feel for Hideki. You obviously feel good for Goddard. At what point do we think, and I'm not making fun, but at what point do we think he stops crying when he wins?
Yeah.
And that's no knock to him, but
Yeah.
at what point is he going to win so much that it becomes not as much of an emotional thing?
We see it with Scotty. Depending on the tournament, he still cries
But
after
it
he gets
depends on the
wins.
tournament. But it
That's
depends
true.
on the
That's
tournament.
true. Yeah, that is true. I mean, this is good. This is Goddard's fourth win on the PGA Tour. His second in his last three starts. He is currently the leader of the FedEx Cup and has pushed himself from outside the top 20 to now fifth in OWGR here to kick off 2026. Goddard's run just to the playoff in its own is pretty crazy. He birdied 5 of the last 6 holes, plus he needed Hideki to bogey the 72nd hole, which occurred. And then not only did Goddard was Goddard most likely going to win anyways the playoff after Hideki put his shot in the water, but he knocks down that 20 foot, 50, it was like 20 feet, I believe, around that putt to birdie the playoff hole and really solidify himself as the winner without a doubt. So, it was a really, really solid performance from Goddard, and he kind of snuck in there to win this tournament at the very end. And he was your breakout player of the year candidate before the season started. And, Luke, you may not be up in the predictions board, but this one, 2 out of 3 for Chris Goddard to start off the year it probably couldn't have been off to a better start.
Yeah, and now that you have me looking at OWGR ranking, I'm trying to find where they have him. He's at 5 right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's pretty wild considering he ended 2025 at 28. I think that he was at 32 when we recorded our podcast. And I said that he was kind of my pick. He was 16 last week. And now, I mean, he's in front of JJ Spawn. He's in front of Ben Griffin. Hideki has slid it still went up. He's at 11 instead of 14. Hideki's at 11. As I mentioned, Russell Henley slides down to 6. So I mean, Goddard's taking some names right now in terms of official world golf ranking, and that's an official world golf ranking that's going to be a little bit more accurate as we go on. Now that Liv's going to get points, it's not going to be exactly what they asked for. So it's still not the most by far accurate depiction of the best players in the world, but it holds a lot of weight. And Chris Goddard's in the top 5 now, which is man, good for him. And we're really, really interested to see where he ends up. At like how are we talking about this man in July?
Mm-hmm.
How where does he fall in the next Ryder Cup? Like, I mean, that's like you're talking a ways out. Like, is it 1A and 1B? I mean, and I'm getting way ahead of myself, but Scotty's always going to be number 1, unless some Space Jam or Thunderstruck thing happens that he hits a brick wall. He's always going to be number 1. But how far does Goddard climb? Right now, it seems like the only place that he can go is down at 5 in the world, but who knows? I mean, we have seen stranger things in this game.
Well, then you look at the top 10 now. We've seen 2 pretty big changes. Chris Goddard, of course, moving into the top 5 from 28th, like you mentioned, at the end of 2025, and Justin Rose moving from 10th to 3rd after his win at the Farmers. And the big faller, you could say, is Ben Xander, going down from 4th to 10th.
Yeah, yeah,
But beyond that, like Justin Thomas, yeah, has fallen a little bit, but that was going to happen because he's been out with injury. Like, it's really been Chris Garup and Justin Rose has probably been the 2 biggest risers in the OWGR so far this season.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
I'm sorry
no,
to
go
cut you
ahead.
off, but I would say, Rory could be a riser, but he can't.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
technically he's further off. I had seen something about he's further off from Scotty than a normal person that has 0 points is to his point tally. And
Mhm.
somebody was like, "Oh, you're closer to Rory than Rory is to Scotty."
Yes.
I completely disagree with that. I mean, I get what they're trying to say, but I completely disagree with that. Obviously, uh, I think it's that you get a little dicey, um, but yeah, Rory's like he hasn't even entered yet. Like we're gonna enter Rory into the season this year. Like you have to be excited about where the PGA Tour is, like in
Mhm.
terms of talent. And we knew that this was going to be a really good year. We knew that. But things that we have confirmed, at least to this point, that Justin Rose isn't going anywhere with his age, that Scotty isn't going anywhere. In fact, he might have only gotten better considering the turnaround that he had, and we'll get into that here in a moment. That Goddard is going to be a breakout player. We haven't seen Fleetwood, we haven't seen Rose, or excuse me, we haven't seen Rory. So like this is going to be really exciting because the number 2 player in the world has not even teed off yet, but he will on Thursday.
Yeah, and before we get into that, I do want to talk about Scotty Scheffler a little bit because he shot a 73 on Thursday, and he was outside the cut line, I believe T81 or T82 at that point in time. But he fights back and was only 1 shot out of a playoff by the time 72 holes were over. He goes 65, 67, 64 the rest of the way. And you mentioned the OWGR stuff. He has officially doubled up Rory McIlroy's OWGR points, which means you and me, who have 0 OWGR points, are closer to Rory than Rory is to Scotty, which is just insane. Absolutely crazy. Some other things from Scotty. Since the beginning of 2025, he's been one of the top 10 putters in the world. That was his big weakness in the early 2020s, was that
Right.
putter. And now he's been one of the best in the world to already add on to the top tier elite iron play that he brings week in and week out. And he is about now 6 weeks away from going a full year without finishing outside the top 10 in the tournament, Luke.
Yeah, and I would have been really, really ticked off if the 1 week that I had him on my board, and it was kind of a sympathy get for me because I had been down so much, I would have been really, really ticked off if I would have come away with $0 from Scotty Scheffler. That would have been very annoying. And I was worried on Friday, I think as a lot of people were, that he was gonna miss. And then like, man, we're texting back and forth Saturday and Sunday. He's 4 back, he's 2 back, he's 3 back. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, did you see the clip of him today, practice round at Pebble Beach, save par from the beach?
I did not, but that sounds crazy. That is
Yeah, he went short on a drive. It's par 5, ended up on the sand. I mean, pretty much all like I mean, feet from the water. And he goes down there with Ted Scott, went down there with the rules official. He's moving moss and leaves and stuff, right, very wet sand, and uh, goes down there and gets back up onto the fairway and save par in a practice round. And like, I mean, it's not that it's anything new, but he's so meticulous about, everything that he does. And when he gets in those situations, and we don't see them in, like, that's why it's so interesting because it's so rare that we see him in any sort of mayhem. Like we saw it at Augusta, the one photo that's been used quite a bit of him sitting in the trees.
yeah.
Like we don't see him in the trees, we don't see him in the sand very often. But when we do, that's when you really understand, I think, why Scotty Scheffler is so good at the game, is because he actually is better in bad situations. Like Friday, he was in a bad situation. Thursday, we saw him almost break his wedge. Like he was not happy. And what does he do when he goes out there and shoots 65, 67, 64? He only got better through the weekend. And and there it is. Like it's ridiculous. And we're gonna find so many different ways to talk about how he's so good. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to compare him to a Division III women's swimmer, but you and I are both at school here in South Jersey, and there's a girl on the women's swimming team who's really, really, really good. And every week I got to figure out some new way that I'm going to write about and talk about how good Ella Pennington is in Division III swimming. That's how it feels on a much, much grander
Yeah.
scale in terms of nationwide attention. Everybody invents new ways to talk about how good he is. And I think what not started to, but what people realize is he's so good when things aren't going his way. And so many golfers are not.
Yeah. Scotty Scheffler has 60 holeouts from off the green in the last 4 years. 60.
I saw one of them at the BMW, probably the
Yeah.
best one, 17.
Yeah, that probably is one of the best ones. So what Scott, yeah, I mean, you said it best. What Scotty's able to do off the green when he's in these troubled situations, he's rarely in them, but when he is so good as well. A lot of other golfers were actually T3 as well. Akshay Bhatia goes 68, 67, 67, 67 to finish T3. So really solid performance from him. Siwoo Kim continues to thrive. He was T3. Michael Thorbjornsen and Nikolai Højgaard were also T3 as well. Really solid performances from those guys. All right, Luke, it's time for the board. You're not going to like this. I'm just going to say that. You are quite a ways away after this week. I doubled up on Siwoo Kim, who had a T3. I had Hideki, who has a solo second, and I am over $1.7 million ahead of you after this week.
And like the thing is, like I really don't even hate. I mean, the guys that placed, like you're talking about Scheffler, who was right in there, and then Hovland, who was top 10. But two misses is going to kill you, and obviously we had the same guy, and Jordan Spieth missed the cut. Koepka, I think I'm off on Koepka for a little while, and we'll see. We'll see.
It's okay. He's not playing this week. He's not playing this week, so you can't.
Oh, thank the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hate to say it. I think I'm a little confident going into next week, and we'll reveal our board here coming up shortly. But for those that are listening instead of watching, in the top 50 category, Mason had Siwoo Kim, who was T3. I had Victor Hovland at T10. We both had guys miss the cut in our not top 50 category. Mason had Jordan Spieth. I had Brooks Koepka. In the past champion category, well, Mason obviously cleaned up with Hideki Matsuyama, who had the second place finish in the playoff. I had Scheffler. And then in the one and done, Mason had T3 Siwoo Kim once more on his board, and that was where I placed my Jordan Spieth. So, I mean, yeah, the guys that you had were the best guys outside God are up to half. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm pretty proud of this. If I didn't pick Spieth, man, this would have been a clean sweep. I'm telling you. All right, so $1.7 million lead, or about that, as we move into Pebble Beach, the first signature event of the season. But a couple quick things before we get to Pebble Beach. Some other news from the weekend. Patrick Reed wins again on the DP World Tour. In his last 3 starts, T2 win for P. Reed, who is actually up to 17th in OWGR now. After some really solid performances, we haven't seen him.
Where he was
42nd at the end of 2025.
Yeah, weren't we just talking about how far he could climb? Well, we talking about that mostly with Koepka.
Yeah, we were talking about with Koepka. But Patrick Reed, 17th in OWGR. I have to check on Koepka. Yeah, Koepka's outside the top 100.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I think 32nd or something like that, 33rd. So, I mean, some of the other lift guys are kind of around that area. Hatton, I believe. Yeah, Hatton's 25th. But Patrick Reed, a guy who just left Live and is dominating the DP World Tour, currently ranked higher than every other live golfer. So pretty crazy.
That's more incentive for those guys to leave, in my opinion. Like,
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, not that they care that much about OWGR to leave a tour, but like, man, if it's Patrick Reed's putting Brian Roll-Up in a tough spot. I don't think that Roll-Up and the PGA Tour leadership are going to do anything about it, because I think that they were pretty proud and should have been pretty proud of the firm stance that they had with the four guys that had the open door to come back. But man, it's pretty. Patrick Reed's making it as difficult as he can for the PGA Tour to tell him no. And I mean, the season has started. It's a really difficult spot if you want to open any doors. But Patrick Reed is exemplifying, what I think a lot of people have thought for a long time now, and that's the fact of like when you leave Live, it becomes a little bit more like this is golf again. Like
Yeah.
Live, they're getting the guaranteed money. They're playing 13 times a year. Until now, until they made the recent change, they're playing 3 rounds a week instead of 4. Patrick Reed's gone, and now he's right back, in what feels probably a little bit more like real golf. There's not music playing in his backswing. Like as tacky as some of that stuff is, and as seemingly meaningless as some of that stuff is, like if there's music playing, this isn't reminding you of when you go play Augusta once a year for the Masters, or whether you go play a major. Like the DJs are and the lights and that stuff, like that whole vibe of Live does not yell golf. And that's what they were trying to do. They aren't trying to be traditional golf. That was part of the selling point for this whole thing. But once you leave, it feels like it means something again, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. And Patrick Reed, actually, there's rumors that he could potentially play in the Scottish Open, which is technically a PGA Tour event, also a DP World Tour event. He can qualify to that through his DP World Tour status. So that could be his first technical PGA Tour event, and that would be before um, that 1 year ban that he would have. So potential there for Patrick Reed return, but again, that's not until July for him. But P. Reed has been doing great stuff on the DP World Tour. Let's now go to another very popular league, I think. I find it very fun. It's the TGL, which this week, Luke, Neil Shipley and Luke Clinton played for Bay City.
They did, and Shipley obviously made some fireworks with his first ever hole in one on TGL in his first ever
Electric.
TGL outing. Yeah, I
It's
mean
up there with that.
he
It's
got the
up there with
people
the
going.
BMW chipping. Yeah, it's up there with the BMW chipping.
I don't know
It's up
about
there
that.
with Rory.
I would say it's
pull
I
a
would say
putter
it's
at
up
Augusta.
there. I would say it's up there with Justin Rose's Albatross in TGL 3 weeks ago or whatever that was.
Okay.
Good for Neil Shipley. I mean, if there's anybody that probably is designed for TGL, it might be Neil Shipley. People love him.
Yeah, Shipley was great. Clinton was great. Um, does this mean that they're going to do well this week? I
I
actually
don't
wait.
know.
No, they don't play this week. But whenever their next event is, does it mean that they'll play well? Maybe we'll see.
I don't. I think that we've busted that myth
No,
because the guy.
Goddard was great, and Goddard stayed
Well,
great.
I don't know if it has anything to do with how he was playing on TGL.
Figala,
Figala was playing awful in TGL and has not had a horrendous start to the year here.
he had one good result, I think.
There's been 5
Well,
tournaments.
Well, the guy. He's actually been really solid. T8, T7, and T18 in the last 3 events.
And he was
Okay.
playing awful in TGL.
Yeah. Okay. That might be the anomaly. Sahith Theegala is the anomaly.
Sahith Theegala is the anomaly.
Yeah. All right. Other news. One last thing in the college golf world. Big news today as Charlie Woods verbally commits to Florida State. This was Florida State was pretty much the favorite for quite some time now. It feels like.
I didn't know that. I would have thought
Yeah.
Stanford's just the favorite because of that's where Tiger went.
Well, I mean, maybe, but dude, they live in Florida now and
Right.
all that.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure I've heard that Florida State's been the favorite. Anyways, Charlie Woods commits there. I believe he's a junior, I want to say. So it won't be next year. or maybe it will
Yeah,
be.
I think he's a
It's a
junior in
junior.
high school. Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
still some
then
time.
world number one amateur Jackson Koivin, who passed up an opportunity to go to the PGA Tour this year, so he could be a rookie on tour, but chose to go back to Auburn, shot 25 under in 54 holes to win the Amera Ari Invitational. I assume I'm saying that right. Or
Sure.
Amer Ari, it's in Hawaii.
Okay.
Won it by 5 shots. Auburn won as a team by 70, or at a score of 77 under. And yeah, I mean, he's been asked several times about the decision, especially when it was up in the air whether he was going to go back to Auburn or not. He said college is too good. It's hard to beat free travel, all your friends there, get your education. All the guys on tour cherish their college years. I'll go when I'm ready. In terms of the PGA Tour, you got to think that next year is probably the year, and we'll be super excited when he makes that decision. Uh, but yeah, I mean, he's killing it at Auburn as we expected. He's a current junior,
Yeah.
and he shot 62-62 in the first 2 rounds. That set an NCAA scoring record for 36-hole score in relation to par. He was 25 under at that point.
Yeah, Jackson Koivin is very good, and you got to imagine he's the favorite for Low-Am and quite a few majors this year as well. All right, it's time this weekend, the first signature event of the season, the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-AM, one of the last legs in the California run before we get down to Florida. But it's the first signature event of the year. We've got a lot of great talent. Rory McIlroy makes his PGA Tour season debut, currently second in OWGR, like we mentioned earlier. McIlroy is also the former reigning champion of this event. Also, every player in the top 36 in OWGR that is eligible for the tournament, so excluding the LIV guys and excluding DP World Tour guys, are playing in this one, except for Justin Thomas, who again is out with injury. Look, Luke, this is a loaded field. This is the best field we've gotten so far this PGA Tour season, with, again, not having the Century to kick off the year. Initial thoughts, initial storylines you want to look at here heading into this weekend at Pebble Beach?
I'm really looking at Rory McIlroy. I think, I mean, he's obviously the defending champion. I think he really, really enjoys playing the tournament. I think a lot of guys obviously do. It's one of the more fun tournaments of the year. It's kind of a back-to-back here where the players love playing in Phoenix because of the crowd and that whole deal, and then they love going back out to California and finishing up this California swing with this and the Genesis next week. So, yeah, I think my eyes are on Rory repeat. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, some notable groups I'm looking at right now. We've got Rory teeing off at 12:24. He's alongside Ryan Fox. So that was interesting. Ben Griffin and Shane Lowry at 12:24. Xander and Jordan Spieth at 12:11. Scotty tees off with Hideki Matsuyama at a certain time. I'm scrolling and I can't find them, but 1:29. And then Colin Morikawa and Ludwig Oberg at 1:30 or 1:29 as well. So again, some loaded groups. They're going off in twos on Thursday and Friday. Again, two courses. Again, you got Pebble Beach and you got Spyglass Hill. So a couple of courses for these golfers. We've got a lot of good players in this field, and it was kind of hard to choose the board, in my opinion, for a couple of these categories. But you ready to reveal our choices here for this week?
As ready as they'll ever be. Nothing to lose at this point.
Okay, here we go. We'll start in the top 50. Again, I have a $1.7 million lead on you, Luke Brown. So you got to come up big with this week. All right, top 50 pick for you is.
Ben Griffin is mine. I think that he's kind of due. We've gotten far enough along into this PGA Tour season that it's time to see something from Benny Booms, as he was referred to during the Ryder Cup stretch.
Yeah, Ben Griffin has played 3 events so far this year: T19 at the Sony Open, T24 at the Amex, T28 at the Phoenix Open. So some consistent performances of making the cut, but has not been competitive yet this season. Again, he won his only appearance in the FedEx Cup Fall at the Worldwide Technology Championship back in October. I went ahead and continued to go with Siwoo Kim here in this top 50 category. Siwoo has been electric this season so far, and again with those live rumors, potentially, he was going to end up joining live at one point this offseason. Well, he stays on the PGA Tour and he's put up a T11, a T6, a T2, and a T3 to kick off his 2026 campaign. So I'm sticking with him here in the top 50 category. Going to the not top 50 now, I went ahead and went with Ryo Hisatune out of Japan. This is a guy that has quietly been really, really solid as well. I'm looking at just consistent performances. In those last two events at the Farmers, it was a T2, and then last week in Phoenix, a T10. So Hisatune is going to be my pick here in the not top 50 category. Luke, you went ahead and went with Jake Knapp. What stood out to you about Knapp?
Yeah, I looked at Knapp's name in the leaderboard last week, and I was like, that's not a bad pick going into the week. I think that, there's a lot of promise with him this season. He was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, on your
Yes,
newcomers
he
to
was.
watch list
Well, not
at the start
newcomers,
of the
but
year,
breakout players.
or breakout players. Let's take a look at his results this season
I've got
thus
him up.
far. He's played in
Yeah.
3 events: T11 at the Sony Open, T5 at the Farmers, and placed 8 solo last week. So 14 under last week, and he's had a really solid stretch here. I don't think that you're far off when you say breakout player this year. In terms of just some consistency, and we've seen some consistency from him. There's a lot of promise to what he's able to bring to tour this year, and hopefully that plays at Pebble Beach as well. I would assume this is his first time in this event.
Yeah, last season when he made the cut, it was pretty much guaranteed a top 30. So it's just about making the cut consistently for him, because when he does, he really seems to thrive on the weekend. And 3 performances so far this season, and T11 or better in all of them. It's really solid. Past champion category, there was really 3 options, I believe. There was Rory, Justin Rose, and one other that I do not remember. But I went ahead and went with Justin Rose. I'll let you go with Rory. I'll start with Rose. This is not a bad pick. Justin Rose is someone who has won an event already on the PGA Tour this season. And when he does make the cut, he really thrives as well. It's just about making the cut in the first place, because that doesn't always happen. Let's talk about Rory McIlroy a little bit. The world number 2, Luke. You got a bet on him this week, right?
Yeah, I got my eye on him to potentially put together some really, really strong rounds of golf this week.
Yeah, Rory's definitely going to be a name to watch. Again, it's his PGA Tour debut. He's played a couple of the DP World Tour events like he usually does. Pebble Beach is usually where he kicks off his PGA Tour season, and last year, of course, winning this thing, one of many historic wins for him last season. All right, one and done pick. I've made a tracker for us now, so we keep track of our one and done picks. So far, I've used Kurt Kitayama, Ben Griffin, Patrick Cantlay, Siwoo Kim, and JJ Spahn. You have used Denny McCarthy, Tony Finau, Ludwig Oberg, Jordan Spieth, and Wyndham Clark. Now, I just realized I spoiled the 2 picks from this week, but I went with JJ Spahn. You went with Wyndham Clark. The thing with Spahn, I feel it's last year he went into a no, sorry, he didn't go into a playoff here in Pebble, but
did it the Players.
Yeah, the Players, yeah, got mixed up a little bit. But Spahn, last year T33 at Pebble Beach is also where he kicked off his season. And it's just the consistency out of him that we've kind of been used to seeing since the beginning since the Players of last year. So I'm looking for another consistent performance here this week from JJ Spahn. What stood out to you about Wyndham Clark?
Well, Wyndham Clark is the third guy that you had mentioned the past champions being Rory and Justin Rose. Wyndham Clark won at 17 under in 2024 over Ludwig Oberg. Obviously, considering this event, it's the same course. It's a lot of it is the same. So, Clark obviously has not the golfer that he was in 2024, and this could be where my board disappoints me a little bit, but I like the allure of him having a tournament win here under his belt, and hopefully, I keep saying this, but hopefully we can smooth the gap a little bit here, because I am now down 1.7 million, and this thing is not getting any better.
Well, we're in the signature events now, so
Right.
this is a big week in terms of money and all of that. But yeah, once more, just going through the board, I went ahead and went with Siwoo Kim. Rio hits the Tune, Justin Rose, and JJ Spahn. Luke, you went with Ben Griffin, Jake Knapp, Rory McIlroy, and Wyndham Clark. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it on the rundown, Luke. Any final thoughts here for Pebble Beach before we get into the first signature event of the year?
No, really looking forward to how this thing shakes out. And it as again, I sound like a broken record, but it's a really fun event. So looking forward to at a picturesque, iconic course. So looking forward to a good weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend ahead. Again, you can pretty much follow us anywhere at Sunday Flags Pod, Instagram, Twitter. You can listen to Sunday Flags wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, YouTube, wherever. So, yeah, and you can follow us at Luke Brown Sports, I believe, on Twitter, and at Mason_Kinnahan on Twitter as well. So that'll wrap things up, though, on this edition of Sunday Flags. We'll see you next time.